Hello and good evening. My name is Ricky Hill, and I am the e-recruiter at the University of California, Merced. I will be serving as your moderator for tonight's presentation. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's presentation of the University of California application tips. But first, let's go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. First, I'd like to mention the way that you can change your volume. You will see in the lower left corner of your screen, there's a button that you can select. Once you click that button, a dialog box will appear on your screen and you can make adjustments as needed. Next, if you would like to raise or lower your hand, you will see an icon in the lower center of your screen. Once you click that icon, it should turn green. If you would like to lower your hand, simply click that button again. Next, we will do a quick review of how you can ask questions using the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen. You can click that icon and you'll see another window appear. You can simply type your question into the box and click send. At the top of the screen, you will also see an option to maximize your screen or leave it to the original size. Please note that this is only one of a number of webinars that we will be hosting to help our students complete the UC application. For more information about future webinars and online chats, please visit our website, admissions.ucmerced.edu/webinars. There, you'll be able to sign up and save your place for one of our future webinars. At this time, I would like to hand it over to tonight's speakers.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are having a good evening. My name is Juan Carlos Lopez. I will be conducting the presentation tonight. If you have any questions during our presentations, please do raise your hand. We want to make sure that we answer all your questions tonight. We also understand that a lot of you are already in a different process of the application itself. And please just bear with us. I want to make sure that we cover all the aspects of the application process. Once again, if you do have any questions, please do raise your hand or ask your questions to our panel that's here to answer. Let's get started. So as you look at the application itself, when you look at the different campuses, the one thing that you should always take consideration is the major that you're applying to. Get the official copy of your transcripts because that's what you're going to need on the site. Makes the process a little easier. Write your personal insight questions way before you start the application. The reason for that is because the longest part of the application will be your personal insight questions. And then, of course, create a document outlining the activities and awards, volunteers, and all that stuff. One of the main factors of applying to the University of California, you want to make sure that you do it with a timely manner. And by doing so is the organizational part of the application process, okay? So now if you think about the application itself, what is it that you're looking for and what is it that we're expecting you to give us? The statement of application integrity, for example, your academic history, your examinative scores, your activities, all this becomes part of the application process. And keep in mind that our selection for the University of California, not only focuses on one aspect of the application, we want to see that well-balanced individual who applies to our campus, from the extracurriculums to the exams to courses taken at the high school and other academic factors. For example, if the student is taking any AP or honor courses or IB programs, those are going to be very important to us as we evaluate your application for admissions. Okay. Now, be mindful that a lot of times when we look at the application itself, we want you to be aware that all of us have a 14-point criteria that we look for. Now, keep in mind that even those 14 points that we have that's published for you are basically a guideline for us and for you to kind of have a feeling as to what we expect from you or from the applicant who's applying to our campus. And that's going to be very important. As you read these 14 points, the first two will be your GPA and your test scores, along with rigorous senior year, and also extra activities, or if you're involved with any special programs at your high school, i.e. AVID, or the TRIO programs, the Upper Bound programs, AEOP, or any college track programs, those are considered to be the extras of the application itself. So think about those when you are putting your application together, or think about all the stuff that you are looking to put into the application. Please keep in mind that you're allowed to use any kind of friendly mobile devices, from your laptop to your pads, or even anything that you could utilize that. But you also keep in mind that when you're using the application itself, you're on a 20-minute timeout. So keep in mind that you keep on working on your application. This is why it's essential for you as an individual who's applying to our campus to have everything organized in front of you. So at the end of the day, you are moving slowly and easily through the application. Usually, it would take you about an hour and a half to complete the application if you have everything in order. And the reason for that is because when you insert all your academic work in there and your activities, that's part of the process that you have to take care of. Okay. Now, keep in mind that in using a browser, we use the current browsers from the Firefox to the Microsoft Edge to Explorer to Chrome. Those are very essential. Always test them to see if they work for you. You got to make sure that you're not kicked out of the site, because sometimes we could have some issues with that. So just be mindful of that. When you're applying as an individual who's applying for this following year, you will be applying for fall quarter or semester of 2020. And this is something that you need to consider. Now, creating an account with the University of California, we always encourage you to create a professional email. Most students utilize their own emails from their home school. We prefer that you use a Gmail account if you have that. And the reason for that is because many times or another, your high school email shuts down once you graduate. And if you need to get information from that email, it'll be almost impossible. So it's always important that you create an email that you're going to be utilizing for the most of your life, or after your high school, one that's used constantly. And that's another thing that you need to do. When you create this email, you need to start thinking about constantly checking it so that you'll be able to get all the information from us, from any campus that you apply to, or what have you. Also, when you create a password, make sure you follow the directions on what we're asking you to create a very strong password. We want to make sure that we secure your information, because that's important to us as well. Okay. Now, be mindful that all of you are applying for fall quarter 2020. The majority of you who are here tonight are either a freshman, or some of you might be transferring or what have you. But for the majority of you, will be applying for fall semester 2020 as a freshman who is currently in high school. Okay, or you've graduated from high school as well. So that's another option that a lot of students may have, because they didn't apply maybe last year or the previous years to the University of California. Okay, this year we made it a lot easier for a lot of students to actually navigate through the system. Instead of having the categories on top of the screen, now we have them on the side. And you could actually look at these, and basically as you complete them, they will go gray and hopefully keep you on task. And then if you need to go back to any of these tasks that you've not completed, you could do so at any time to just double check what you have put into the system itself. Okay. Now, this is very important for a lot of you. For those of you who are U.S. citizens, please indicate so. As a U.S. citizen. For those of you who are DACA, please go select non-selection on there. And if you have an ITIN number, please make sure you include that as well on there. We also usually ask you that you include your social security number, just because of a couple of reasons. Be mindful again that this is a secure site, so you don't have to worry about a lot of the stuff getting out. But one of the things that allows us, when you put your social security number in the system, that allows us to track and look for transcripts or any ACT scores that we're looking for. And usually that basically joins together when we're looking for that. Because a lot of times when we're looking for some of these SAT scores or ACT scores, a lot of times they get stuck and they don't go through and work it, because a lot of students today, they have a lot of hyphenated names. It's very important that you do that. Okay. Now, another thing that a lot of you probably completed, again, a majority of you, I think a lot of you already completed the personal aspect of your application. And we want to make sure that I cover as much as I can, so that you'll be able to kind of get the idea of what we're looking for in regards to the application. Again, personal information. Now, something that we did something different this year is the map of California, and the interactive that you actually get to work with this map. When you're selecting campuses, you click on the campus you want to apply to. Then you go from there and select other campuses for that matter. This is kind of an interactive, okay, I guess we want to make it a little fun for a lot of you students. As before, just basically, we had boxes and you select the campuses you were applying to as a student. Okay, be mindful that the University of California is one of the largest institutions in the United States, and we want to make sure that you also be able to apply to the appropriate campus that you're seeking to be admitted to as well. Okay, now keep in mind that also the categories for majors. Make sure that you look at the campuses for the majors, and this is very important. As going back to the beginning, is that when selecting the campus, check if you already know, if you already have an idea what kind of major you want to go into. Make sure that you check the campus you intend to apply to, that they have what you're looking for. It's always important that you do that. And in every category that you see here on the application, you'll have the subcategories of other stuff that's under that particular major. So click on those and you'll see that. Now, if you think about some of the campuses that allow you, or the majority of us, who allow you to go undecided or undeclared, be mindful of a couple of things. When you're applying as undecided or undeclared, they're not going to actually ding you for that. It's another option that a lot of students do have when applying to the university. But we do also ask students when selecting the major that they go forward and select an alternate major. It's very important that the students do that because you never know whether you're going to be selected for that individual alternate major that you selected. We also hope that when you select an alternate major, it has similarities to what you're looking for as a main major for you on the campus of your choice. Okay. Now, one of the things that you should be aware as well, also for those of you who are thinking about applying to the University of California, San Diego, there is that categories of colleges on the campus. Please, before you rank them, please understand each college best fit your needs and what have you, so that you'll be able to apply accordingly. Also, be mindful that when you rank these colleges for UC San Diego, it doesn't necessarily that's not related to your major. Some of these have nothing to do with your major. Because they're learning communities, they want to make sure that you understand them correctly and the way you see yourself being a student at that campus. So think about those things as you apply to the University of California. Okay. Now, when we start doing the application, a lot of students have the tendency or have the opportunity to take either a foreign language or a math in middle school. Please do so and include them in here. Again, we want to see the full picture of your academics in regards to what you've done in the past years. Now, in regards to California schools, we made it easier for a lot of you to kind of insert your campus in there. All you got to do is look for your campus selected, and be mindful that all the courses for that particular the school that you attend are in the system. If for some reason you cannot find either the school or the courses, you could actually add that on to make sure that your school is added into the application itself. If you've gone to multiple campuses, make sure that you include those in there as well, even though we're going to be looking at the last school that you attended, which will be the school that you graduated from for admissions purposes. Okay. Again, we made it a lot easier for a lot of you to actually kind of put all this information together. So by the time you started, the majority of you started in 2006, fall, and you'll be graduating next May of 2020. A lot of your schools, make sure that you categorize them or identify them as A through F grades. Some of your campus might be on a trimester. Make sure you include that as well on there. Just make sure that you click on the appropriate boxes in regards to the school that you attend at this moment. Okay, so that's very important for us. Again, the system itself has made it so easy for you to select your courses and to select which kind of courses you've taken in your high school. Be mindful that some of the students that select, some of the students who have taken courses in high school, a lot of them have, for example, on your campus site, I have, like, for example, I've taken 9th grade English honors, for example. Keep in mind, if the course is not identified as English honors on the A through G website course list, it is not considered an honors course. But then again, be aware also that as a University of California, we're only going to look at your 10th and 11th grade for GPA calculations. And that goes also too for 10th grade. If your course, for example, you said I took English honors for my 10th grade, and if you look at the A through G courses for your school, and if it's not identified as an honors course, it is not an honors course. And for the most part, a lot of the courses in the system for your campus, all the courses are already in there, so you don't have to worry about looking for it and what have you. Also keep in mind what I've seen as well, that a lot of schools maybe, for example, they might have a different title for math for Math 1. For example, I've seen some schools that have Heritage Math 1, and then you go to your A through G course list, and the Heritage Math 1 is not on there. It is best that you talk to your counselors. That's the best way to select that. For the most part, that would be considered Math 1 as taken at your high school. But also, again, double check with your counselors in regards to the selection of that course, because you want to make sure that you select that course. Because again, your transfer will be something different than that what you put on your application. So be mindful of that. This is some tips that you want to be aware when inserting the courses into the system. Make sure that you're selecting the right course with the right title. And again, if you are unsure of the title, check the A through G website and to see comparisons. If it's not on there, and then what happens too is if you go to the A through G website, you must go to the year that you took that course or the course was taken in order to kind of see whether they're there or not. And sometimes they might not be. And again, this is something that you might have to address your counselors or your counselors at school about the issue of not having the same course on the website. So think about that. If you're a high school student and decided to take courses at a college, a community college, or at a university, a lot of students who have taken courses at the National University, for example, or BYU, that is fine. Keep in mind that these courses will be here will be inserted in the college, you're taking in the college section of the application. Please don't put them in the high school section because they don't belong there. And the reason for that is because we want to identify those courses that you've taken in at the community college, or you've taken at another university, or something that is identified as a university or higher ed institution. And the reason for that, we want to make sure that the student has those. If we need to give them extra credit for that, that'll be something that we want to make sure that they do as well. Okay. Again, for the majority of you, you will be attending most of the schools here in California. And if for some reason you decided that you wanted to attend a community college outside of California, maybe like in Utah or Nevada or somewhere else in another state, make sure you indicate so. And again, the site will give you opportunities to look for that community college and allow you to insert it, easily to the system itself. Okay. One of the good things about our application that I really encourage you to do in this section, be mindful that everything you put in the application is all self-reported. So keep in mind that all the academics that you earn in high school, all those courses have to be in the system in your application. Do not include your health unless it's identified in your A3G as an elective course. That's the only time you can put it in there, or your PE. Okay. Also, be mindful that if any student repeats any course, if they repeated in a D or F grade, make sure you put both courses with both grades in the system. And the reason you want to do that because we want to see that you made up that course, and we want to see the progression of your academics. Also, in this section, in the additional comments in the academics, if you want to explain anything about your academics, I strongly encourage you to utilize this section to explain anything about your academics that you feel that we should know about you. Maybe, for example, you were having a hard time with learning something or understanding certain concepts, or maybe it's something that was going on in your life that you want to include in there, and that's the reason for your academic performance that particular year. Again, the one thing that we want to know when applying to the University of California, we want to know a lot about the individual who's applying to our campus. That is very important to us, because the more we know, the better understanding we have of the applicant who's applied to our campus. So think about those, okay? Now, when you take your SATs or your SAT, please keep in mind that they have to come in with the writing or the essay. If a student decides just to take the SAT without the essay or the writing, or the ACT or SAT, either or, keep in mind that you basically disqualify yourself from the process. But also keep in mind that you have until the end of December to take the last SAT scores. If for some reason you are not satisfied with the results that you received in the previous exams of either the SAT with the essay or SAT with the writing, it is okay to tell us that, hey, I'm going to be taking it in December. That is perfectly fine. That's not going to be a negative on the application, because we understand that a lot of students will be taking the SAT in December, and that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that when you take the exam, you make sure that the exams get to the appropriate university that you're applying to as well. So that's very important. Okay. So also, If you are planning or have taken any AP exams, make sure that you indicate so, because a lot of you who are taking AP courses right now, or even IB courses, a lot of you will be taking your exams in May, and that's perfectly fine. Again, if you've taken any AP exams and you received a score, please put them in the system. Most students, a lot of students are afraid when they take AP courses. They're afraid to include their scores because they think it's too low. The idea is this: we want to see that the student who's applied to the University of California, that when they take an AP course or honors or AP course or IB course, and if they take the exam, they follow through. Because a lot of times when they just include, I took AP history, AP US history, but they don't include the exam, our question would be, why did you take the exam? And then we'll kind of find out that I did take it, but I didn't learn nothing or better. It doesn't really matter. We're not going to ding you because of the fact that you didn't get a 3 or better. We are going to look to see that you follow through in regards to taking these exams. So be mindful of that when you're putting these AP exams in the application. Okay. Again, because we redesigned the application itself, now you're allowed to put a little bit more of your activities and awards in the application, which is kind of awesome. And one of the things that I do encourage you to do the most recent to the oldest, and that's what you want to do. And do go through every process of everything that you've done in your high school career is very important to the University of California. It is important to our campuses because we want to get a better picture of you who's applying to our campus, okay? Another thing that we've done, and we've done very well, is that looking at what kind of scholarships are available for you. Please take advantage of this section. We want to make sure that you, as an individual, you take advantage of the scholarships that are offered to you through our campuses. Look at the criteria, because you never know what you're going to be getting, and study them correctly, because that way you'll have a better chance of getting these opportunities that we offer at every campus. So think about that as you apply to the campus. Again, one of the biggest parts and one of the biggest sections of our application is the insight questions. And this is something that a lot of you stress over. You shouldn't do that. Keep in mind that the idea of the insight questions, or the goal, is basically to have a better picture as to who the applicant is applying to the University of California. Okay. I always encourage students to, when they look at the questions, there's eight of them questions. I always encourage students to at least answer all 8, because what happens a lot of times is that when you do answer all 8, you get a better picture of who you are, and sometimes you will write on one aspect of a question more than the others, and that gives you a better picture of who you are as an individual. But at the end of the day, you're going to select 4 of those questions that you can be submitting to the application. Okay. Keep in mind that you need to have at least 250 words maximum for each response, and all questions have equal value. Okay. So at the end of the day, what is it that we're looking for? In the personal insight questions, again, they're designed to give us a better picture of who the applicant is. There is no wrong, no right answer. We're not looking for the best writer in the world. We're not looking to see whether you know how to use the thesaurus. Okay, we're looking for you to be as honest as possible and to give us an insight of your world. So for that, we can make the best decisions and have a better understanding of who the applicant is. Okay, so the questions here go beyond more than what we ask. For example, we ask you to describe of your leaderships, some of you, and keep in mind, being a leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're part of a club, or you're vice president or president of a club, or you are a co-captain or a captain of a team. It could mean all kinds of things. For example, let's say you were the type of individual that couldn't participate in a lot of activities at home because you had to run home and take care of your brothers and sisters. Guess what? That could be part of leadership, because you were forced to by your parents, that you were told that you should run home and take care of the household while they're working. And as you take care of your brothers and sisters, you as an individual, you do a lot of things. You help them with their homework. You probably make food for your dinner for your brothers and sisters, and you do other things with them. Maybe you do a lot of the chores that your parents expect you to do at your household. And that kind of leadership is very important to us as an individual. Okay. Again, leadership does not necessarily mean that you have to be part of a club or a sport, or even it could be something that you may be part of your church, that you basically, maybe you're a catechist, you're teaching Sunday school or Saturday school for your church. Again, the more we know about you, the better understanding we have as the applicant. Also note that a lot of these questions do overlap. And keep in mind that a lot of students, when they look at these questions, they think you could put them all together as one. Be careful with that. Answer them as individual questions. One of the things I'd also suggest that you do in regards to answering these personal insight questions is this. Ask yourself the question and record it, and record your answer. You'll be surprised how much information you get out of that, or not. As individuals, I know a lot of you are afraid to write about yourselves, let alone talk about yourselves. Think of these questions as giving you opportunities to shine out of everybody else. This is where you become the individual that you feel that you are. And a lot of times what a lot of students do, and as my experience goes, a lot of students will ask their parents, it says, what do you think about this? How do you see me doing that? And your parents will be as honest with you because they know you best. But if you don't want to go that route, you'll be surprised how much information you can get out from your parents from that. But also, if you think about the questions and you answer them out loud, you'll be surprised how much information you can get from yourself in looking at these questions. Okay. One of my favorite questions in the whole section here is basically question number 8. Essentially, what we're asking you there is tell us why you're a good candidate for the University of California. And that's a challenge in itself because, again, as human beings, we don't like talking about ourselves. And this is something that a lot of us are afraid to do so. But keep in mind, the questions are designed to get you to tell us about who you are. So when evaluators like myself look at your application, we have a better understanding of your world. Let me give you an example. I had an individual, actually my neighbor, who basically had his goals to go to, his goal was to be at Santa Cruz all his life, well, 7th grade. And he basically was thinking Santa Cruz or bust. That was his goal. When he applied to the University of California, or before he applied to the University of California, he came down my house and I looked over his application, and I knew what was going on in his household. So I kind of hinted, you should talk about things that are going on in your life that has changed your life. And the individual said, okay, I'll take care of it, don't worry. And so I went, he's going to be fine. It so happened that he didn't tell us about what was going on in his life at the time. It was a challenge. His 11th and 12th grade were a challenge in his household. And he didn't include those challenges. And then I asked him why. He said he was embarrassed of that. Do not be embarrassed at something that you've gone through in your life, that you feel that we should know about it. Keep in mind that all the information that you give us stays within the university. We don't necessarily share, and we don't share your names either. But we use it as an example so that you could understand that we want to make sure that we want to make the application human to us. And by adding these things. So going back to my neighbor, so he was put on the wait list to Santa Cruz, and he was devastated. But at the end of the day, I talked to him and I said, look, you could do this and that. Talk to the admissions and include this is something that's different and more information from you. And he went out and did it. Happy to say that he's at Santa Cruz this fall. And so, again, these insight questions are essential to us in regards to understanding who the individual is and who's applying to our campus as a student. And that's what the university is looking for. We're looking for that balance, okay? We already saw your academics. We already saw your activities. And the frosting on the cake is your insight questions. This is what brings it all together. And then if you feel this is not enough for you to give us the information, you do have a section for additional comments. This is where you get to be yourselves. You could write about anything you feel. You have 550 words to play with, okay? And this is where you as an individual get to write about anything you feel we should know extra about you. And that's very important to us because, again, the more we know about you, the better it is in understanding where you come from. Now, just to give you an idea, some of our students in the past, what they've included in additional comments, a lot of students have included their YouTube links. I'm not saying you should do it. And it's funny because when we click on these YouTube links, a lot of students are either dancing, singing, acting, or doing some kind of tricks. And that's perfectly fine. The goal is, again, is to to grab the best image of the student who's applying to our campus. Okay. Now, as you go through the process and you're ready to look at, we're going to give you an option to review your application before you submit your application. That's very important to us, and it should be to you. As you're thinking about everything else that's missing, it'll tell you what you're missing. If there's an error in your application, you'll be told there's an error. Now, for example, a lot of you who would put maybe language other than English. A lot of you will say, I only took 1 year because I took maybe Spanish 3 or German 3, and that's perfectly fine. This is just a double check in regards to your application to make sure that it's correct before you submit the application to our system, okay? Now, keep in mind that also the application is due at the end of this month, before midnight, November 30th. I always encourage students to submit it the week before Thanksgiving. Give yourself some time so you can enjoy your holiday, but also at the same time that when you apply to the university, you will be allowed to see whether you're going to get a fee waiver. And if you get the fee waiver, please utilize all 4 fee waivers so that you'll be able to get that the best evaluation from the University of California. Okay. Now, if for some reason you cannot pay for the application at the time, you could always send and ask that you be mailed the bill for the application itself. All right. Also, keep in mind also when you submit your application, do print out your receipt. In that, when you see the application ID, that'll be your ID that you're going to be using to connect your application with the campuses you apply to. So do print your receipt, or at least try to keep your application in a PDF file on your computer, so you'll be able to look at it and see if you could, because students many times or another, they do feel like they made an error. This is the best way to catch that error. And if that's the case, again, there'll be a time for you to kind of send us information that. But also, we want you to also look at this page, because this is a very important page, and I want you to read it carefully. This is the release and authorization and statement of integrity. Everything you read on here, basically to the point, to the best of your knowledge, all the information you put on your application is true. That's how you're releasing to. And also you're giving your parents' consent to look at your application or to ask questions in regards to the application process. So this is the page that you want to make sure that you read carefully and understand what it means, okay? Now, again, one of the things we want you to do is if you want to have any changes in regards to your application, make sure that you contact the application center, and this is what you need to have in front of you, and this is when they're open, and the dates and times when you can contact them. And again, think about this, that it is the holidays that's coming up, so try to submit your application the week before Thanksgiving so that you'll be able to kind of relax and just wait for a decision come the following year. Thank you very much, and may the force be with you. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we're going to be taking questions live now, so go ahead and ask your questions. Let me get out of this. Oh, I see. Okay, let me see if I can get back to that page when you were asking. Let's see. This page, correct? Got it? All right. Are there any questions? Okay. If my SAT score is better than my SAT score, should I only submit my SAT score or submit both scores? Okay. So keep in mind that when you submit your SAT score, you can always submit the best score possible. It doesn't really matter to us. If you submit both scores, we're going to take the highest score of your SAT or your SAT. Okay, so be mindful of that. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm going to answer this other question. The question that goes, if I go undeclared as a major, does that weigh towards the result of the application? Not necessarily. Again, going undeclared is not going to hurt your chances of getting into the university. It's basically more of how you apply to the University of California. This is why we always tell individuals, when you apply to the University of California, apply smart and broadly. Starting with the major that I'm going to go into, and be mindful too of some of the colleges, some of the universities, some of the campuses will offer you an undeclared in humanities or in the sciences or engineer. If you have an idea, if you want to go into those majors, if you're not sure what kind of major you want to go into, let's say the engineers or humanities, you can go and declare, okay? The idea is basically that we know that students will eventually a lot of them will change their major within the first 2 years of college, and that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you do it smart and you do it wisely when you apply to the University of California, okay? Now, there's a good question here. Do you look at the SAT subject test scores? How much are they weighted in consideration of the application? One of the things that you should be aware of is that as the University of California, we no longer require the SAT subject scores, but it is highly recommended, specifically for those campuses that offer, or those majors that are part of the STEM majors. It's not going to affect your admissions process. It doesn't really go a lot of weight, but when we see those kinds of things, we look at those individuals as competitive as just the other students who apply to our campus. Good question here. Where'd it go? Somebody already answered. Let's see. How important is the flow of the personal insight questions? One of the things that you should consider when looking at the insight questions is that you need to be clear on the answer. That whatever questions you decide to answer, you have to be clear on the answer itself. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that you're clear on the message that you're trying to convey to the reader, i.e. the evaluator that's going to read your application, okay? You don't want to jump from one topic to the next within the same answer. You want to stay focused and be mindful that you have to be, the I factor is a huge thing in the answering those questions, okay? All right, any other questions? Should I continue answering? All right. So here's another question, very good question. For the activities in the award section, if I won an award multiple years in a row for STEM, and it was through the same program, would they have to each be individual awards, honors, or should I clump them all together and check all the boxes it applies? Note that we're all different levels, international and couple. Yeah, you should always include them separately because we want to see what you've done as an individual, and if it's different awards, that's going to be very important for us to see that in the application itself. Okay. Okay. Question: I took a high school math class, geometry in summer school after 8th grade. Does that count as full year term or less than the full year? It shows up as 2 semesters on my transcript. So here, Annie's asking that question. So basically what you're saying is that you took geometry going into 9th grade, and that's going to fulfill your geometry requirement for the University of California. So you're going to be okay. Okay. So, let's see. Question: if my community courses are in progress, where do I put them in the application? Do I put them along with the progress in high school classes? No, those community college courses should be put in the community college section of the application. Okay. Again, putting them in the high school section is not going to do much. We want to see that you're also taking community colleges, so put them in the community college section, part of the application. Okay. Debbie's asking, if I were to submit an application, can I go back and edit based on the additional knowledge that was discovered this evening? If you submitted the application, this is something that the only thing that can be changed. There are certain things of the application. What I would do is write the call center and submit the new information that you have to provide us. That's all that you have to do that. Okay. Question: if we are taking the SAT in December, how would you submit them? Okay. When you take the SATs in December or either exam in December, you got to make sure that you put on the form that you want the scores to be submitted to the University of California. Okay, that way we'll get them, and then hopefully distribute them to whoever needs to see your final SAT scores. So keep that in mind when you do submit those exams. Okay. Question: if I took high school level math course in 8th grade, do I need to submit my middle school transcript? No. Any course taken in middle school, if it's something that it's, for the most part, a lot of high schools will include that in their own high school transcript. But again, keep in mind that a lot of the courses you put in the application is self-reported, And it also depends on what kind of math you took in 8th grade as well, because what happens after whatever math you took in middle school will indicate as to what math you were put in place or you were placed in high school. That will basically will tell us that this individual already took a certain type of math, that they are okay to be in a certain math level in high school. But also keep in mind that if you decide, if you are the type of student who took geometry in middle school, make sure you indicate so that you've done that as well. Okay. Okay. Question: if I take the SATs, will UC see my lower scores or just the higher scores? If you submit all scores, we'll see all scores. But then again, we're going to utilize the high scores of one sitting to benefit the student. Okay. Again, our goal is to figure out ways to help you be considered for admissions to a UC campus. And by doing so, we're going to be looking at the best scores that you receive by one sitting of the SATs or the ACTs with the writing or essay. So be mindful of that. Okay. All right. Question. Lozano is asking, do you know which college at UC San Diego would be best for biology majors? Again, that is, I do not know. This is why it's important for you to go into the University of California, San Diego and study those colleges, and you have to make this decision, and you have to rank them that will benefit you as a student. Very important that you do that first before you rank them, those colleges. Okay. All right. Question. Can you talk a little bit about what the difference between the majors, electrical engineering and computer science engineering are? Well, that's a tough question. So it all depends what you want to do with your career path. It is always to kind of look at all the electrical engineering majors, computer engineering, and computer science, and you kind of have to do your research on your own and to see what's beneficial for you. And once you do that, then you're going to have the right response and you're going to make the right decision for yourself. That's the best thing I could tell you in regards to answering that question, because I can't really tell you what would be best for you and what would be the difference. That's the research that you do as a student. That's why it's so important for a lot of you who look at majors. It is important that a lot of you do your research carefully, so when you're about to select a major, you make the right choice for yourself. Okay. Now, question. If a mediocre grade with no extenuating circumstances, but nearly perfect SAT and many extracurriculars, how does that affect my application? All right. Be mindful that under the admissions guidelines for the University of California, a 3.0 threshold must be met between your 10th and 11th grade. That's the beginning. And then we're going to look at your SATs, and there's a balance between your SATs and your GPA. We're going to find the medium and to see whether you have met that part, and then we're going to look at your extracurriculum. And again, the ideal goal, or the goal of the University of California, is to look for that balance of the individual who's applying to our campuses. Okay, that's what we're looking for. And that's one of the things that makes the University of California so unique in selecting their students for admissions. And that's another thing too, ladies and gentlemen. The University of California does not reject you. We just basically, at the time, we cannot offer you admissions because there were certain circumstances. There are ways for you to actually get into the University of California. Okay, so be mindful of that. All right, question. For activity sections, do I include my position in the activities or just name? Example, president of computer science club or just running computer science club. President is very important. Having that title is very important. Again, leadership roles are very important to the University of California. And be mindful too, when you do a lot of activities and that you show us that you've done a lot, there's a reason for that. A lot of your students who basically are involved in their high school activities and sports or clubs and organizational community service, when we see that, we expect those students when they come to the universities to be involved in a lot of stuff on their campus. That's what makes your experience so unique when attending the University of California. So be mindful of this. So yes, including the president of the computer club is very important to us. And it's okay to state your position in that, okay? Question. Now, does citizenship have an effect on being admitted? Do refugees have lower chances of being accepted? Okay. One of the things that we do very well at the University of California is we evaluate every student who's a resident of California, regardless of status. We evaluate every student for the value that they bring to the University of California. and we determine and the competitiveness for admissions to the University of California. So we don't necessarily discriminate against individuals who are undocumented or refugees. We look at every student as a unique individual who wants an opportunity to be admitted to our campuses. That's a good question. Okay. All right. Now, the question is, Brent is asking, is the SAT essay a major factor for applying to university because I earned low score? Will it affect my chance of getting it? Okay, that's a good question. Now, keep in mind that, as I mentioned to you earlier, we do require that you take the SAT or the SAT with writing an essay. That's very important. As far as your score is concerned, it's all taken, what you've scored in the whole exam, that's what we're going to be looking at the score in regards for your admissions process. So no, it's not going to affect you. Basically, we're looking at your total score for one sitting. That's what we're going to be looking at for admissions purposes. Okay. All right.
Hi, everyone.
So
this is Ricky. Sorry, Juan Carlos. I just wanted to let everyone know we have just about 5 or 6 minutes left tonight. And just a quick reminder that we do have an additional webinar. It is scheduled for next Friday, November 15th. And we also have a couple of live chats coming up. One will be on November 22nd and another one on November 26th. So we hope to see you in one of those sessions. And I will toss it back to Juan Carlos to go ahead and wrap up our Q&A. Thanks so much.
Yes, I want to appreciate all of you who attended today. There's a lot of great questions. I know that a lot of you are a little bit antsy about the application process. Don't be. The application itself is very friendly to you. We want to make sure that when you apply to our campuses, you don't feel that pressure. And I understand too that a lot of you are kind of uneasy about the insight questions. Again, the insight questions are all about you. If you are a solid student and you bring the whole picture to us and you're well balanced, the University of California, we look at those kinds of students as candidates for admissions to our campuses. Every student who applies to our campuses we look at because we feel that every student deserves an opportunity for admissions to our campus. And that's one of the things that I want you to be aware of. And as a student who applies to the universities, don't be nervous or don't feel afraid to contact any of our offices for more information. And that's one of the things that I really want you to do. If you feel that there's something in your mind that you want to ask of any campus, do so. Our job is to service you as students who are applying to our campus. Our job is to make sure that we do a solid evaluation when you apply to our campus. And that's something that we really pride ourselves in. We look at the quality of students who apply to our campus, and every single one of you who thinks about applying to our campus is a great candidate. It's also a matter of you, how you put the portfolio or the application in a sense together. Your SATs, your GPA, your exams, your extracurricular activities are all fine and dandy. But as I was telling you, the frosting on the cake is that insight questions that gives us a whole picture as to who the applicant is, who's applying to our campuses. Okay. Again, I want to thank you very much, and I want to wish you the best of luck in what you do. And we hope to see you at one of our campuses in the fall of 2020. Good luck to all of you, and have a good night.
Hello, everyone. One last time, this is Ricky, your e-recruiter. On behalf of the University of California, Merced, and my colleagues who have been online with us tonight, both live, thank you, Juan Carlos, as well as those assisting us in the chat session. We thank you all so much for joining us. And once again, please take a moment and check online for our future webinar as well as live chats. You definitely want to take a moment to register early to save your place. You can find more information on those sessions on our website, which is admissions.ucmerced.edu/webinars. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful night.